Okay, so picture this. You step into Mexico City, and wow, the variety of faces is just immediately striking. You'll see, the bronze skin, the sharp cheekbones, that classic wavy black hair. But then, almost unexpectedly, you see light green eyes, maybe hazel eyes, sometimes even freckles, paired with really jet black hair. And this isn't just a Mexico City thing, it's everywhere. From the deserts up in Sonora way down to the jungles of Chiapas, from tiny indigenous villages in Oaxaca to like super modern Monterey, Mexicans just look incredibly different from each other. So today on the deep dive, we're tackling a question that honestly many people wonder about. Why do people from the same country, same nationality, often look so wildly different? We all know Mexico for its amazing culture, but have you ever really stopped to think about the sheer, well, visual spectrum of its people? Even just town to town. Our mission today is to really unpack the stories, the history, the genetics, the social factors behind this incredible human tapestry in Mexico. We've got historical accounts, some fascinating genetic studies, sociological research. The goal is to understand not just what makes Mexicans look so different, but maybe why it matters. Fundamentally, Mexico's identity has always been about mixture, right? A real blend. Even before the Spanish showed up in the 1500s, this land was already a mosaic. Dozens of distinct indigenous groups. You had the Aztecs, the Mayas, Zapotec, Mixtecs, so many others. And these groups, living in totally different environments, often isolated for centuries, they already had unique looks, shaped by where they lived, their ancestry. Then, of course, the Spanish colonizers arrive. And bring a whole new set of European traits into the mix. Lighter skin, yeah, often straighter hair, generally taller builds, different eye colors, blue, green, hazel. And over 3 centuries, this wasn't just Spanish and indigenous peoples mixing. We also have to remember the Africans brought over during the slave trade. All this intermarriage created this huge population we now call mestizos, people of mixed ancestry. Today, the stats show something like what? Over 62% identify as mestizo, about 21% indigenous, and maybe 1.2% is Afro-Mexican, based on self-identification.
Yeah, and building on that, while how people identify themselves is, of course, incredibly important culturally, the genetic studies, they often paint an even more intricate picture. Like you mentioned, the 1.2% identifying as Afro-Mexican. Well, genetic evidence suggests the actual population with African ancestry is likely much larger. It's often woven deep into family lines, sometimes, kind of hidden or not actively recognized over generations. This complex blending, this continuous mixing over centuries, that's the core reason. It's why two Mexicans can look so completely different but share the same nationality. It's really fundamental.
That makes sense. It's the foundation.
Yeah.
So how does this play out visually, like with specific traits? Skin tone seems like a big one.
Oh, definitely. Skin tone variation in Mexico is dramatic, especially regionally.
Right, our sources really highlighted that. Like, if you go to northern Mexico, closer to the U.S. border states like Nuevo León, Chihuahua, you tend to see lighter skin tones more often. And the genetic studies back this up, right? Showing European ancestry, sometimes over 60, even 70%.
Exactly. That strong European influence, mainly Spanish, but other European groups too, directly correlates with the lighter skin and other features common there. It definitely impacts local perceptions too.
Okay, so contrast that with, say, central and southern regions, Oaxaca, Chiapas.
Big difference. In those areas, indigenous ancestry is much more prominent. Genetically, it can be over 70% in some communities. And that translates visually to those darker bronze or rich copper skin tones you see more frequently.
And we can't forget the Afro-Mexican communities, especially along the Costa Chica in Guerrero and Oaxaca. Their unique, deep brown skin tones are a direct link to their West and Central African heritage. It's such a visible part of their identity.
Absolutely. And this regional variation, it's not just about genetics. It carries significant social weight. This gets into that difficult topic of colorism, particularly in Mexican media. You often see an overrepresentation of lighter skin tones, wouldn't you say?
Oh, absolutely. It's noticeable. In telenovelas, ads, movies, lighter skin often seems to be the default or maybe the ideal.
And this isn't just on screen. As you were saying, it has real-world consequences.
Yeah, that 2017 study from Mexico's National Institute of Statistics, it was pretty stark. It found that lighter-skinned Mexicans were, statistically speaking, more likely to get higher-paying jobs, have better access to education, while darker-skinned Mexicans often faced, well, systemic discrimination in hiring, but also just in day-to-day interactions, maybe perceives credibility.
Precisely. So it moves beyond just aesthetics. It becomes an issue of opportunity, of social mobility. It's deeply ingrained.
Okay, so skin tone is one major axis of variation. What about eye color? That's another one that stands out.
It really does. While most Mexicans, maybe around 80%, have brown or dark eyes, and that includes a beautiful range from honey to almost black. Those 2017 genetic studies showed something like 15–20% actually have light eyes,
Oh.
blue, green, or hazel.
Which is quite a significant minority. And those are linked primarily to European ancestry.
Almost always, yes. You see them more often in those northern states again, like Sonora or Jalisco, places that had Spanish settlement, but also later German and Italian immigrants.
And indigenous groups like the Nahua or Mixtec.
Primarily dark eyes, almost universally. And Afro-Mexican communities also contribute their own variations within the dark eye spectrum. It just adds to the richness.
It's interesting how these traits, like eye color, can become, well, almost markers.
That's a very astute way to put it. Eye color, especially light eyes, often gets idealized in the media, doesn't it? It sometimes becomes this subtle, maybe subconscious indicator of, well, perhaps perceived privilege or a certain kind of aesthetic ideal.
Right.
And this fuels those ongoing debates about beauty standards in Mexico. What is considered beautiful? Who gets represented? It's about identity as much as genetics.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
But is it just idealization, or are people pushing back? Are we seeing like a counter-narrative celebrating indigenous or Afro-Mexican features more now?
Oh, definitely. That's a really important point. While those older ideals persist, there's absolutely a growing movement, especially among younger people, artists, activists, reclaiming and celebrating the beauty in indigenous and Afro-Mexican features. They're challenging those norms, pushing for more inclusive representation. It's a very active, evolving conversation.
Good. Okay, let's talk about height or stature. Mexico generally trends shorter than the global average, right?
On average, yes. The figures are around 169 centimeters, about 5'6" for men, and 157 centimeters, about 5'2" average for women.
But again, I bet there's regional variation here too.
Huge variation. Just like with skin tone, northern Mexicans, again, tend to be taller. That often reflects both the stronger European genetic component and historically better access to nutrition in those regions.
Makes sense. And in the South, with indigenous communities like the Zapotec or Maya.
They generally tend to be shorter, and that's likely a combination of genetics, passed down over generations, and also those historical socioeconomic factors,
Yeah.
diet, access to resources, things that impact growth.
It's wild to think, wasn't there archaeological evidence showing ancient Maya rulers were taller than commoners, suggesting diet and class impacted height even way back then?
That's right. It shows this interplay isn't new. But the positive side is that nutrition is improving overall now, and we are seeing average heights slowly increase. Younger generations are often taller than their parents, which shows how environment continues to shape these traits.
So it's always that mix of genetics and environment.
Exactly. It's rarely just one or the other. It prompts that bigger question. How much is deep ancestry versus, say, diet or living conditions? It's a complex interplay. Scientists use various methods like studying populations over time or looking at genetics versus environment to try and understand these interactions better. It really highlights human adaptability.
Okay, what about hair and facial features? That seems like another area where the blending would be really obvious.
Absolutely. Hair texture alone is incredibly diverse across Mexico. Many indigenous groups typically have that very thick, straight black hair, mestizo populations. Because of the mix, you see everything wavy, curly textures are very common. Afro-Mexican communities often have distinctive, tightly coiled curls.
And then you have the European influence, adding lighter brown, sometimes even blonde shades, though less common.
Right. And facial structures. They tell similar stories. Indigenous ancestry often contributes features like broader cheekbones, maybe more almond-shaped eyes, straighter noses. European ancestry might bring narrower noses, different jawlines. Afro-Mexican features add to that diversity, two fuller lips, different nose shapes alongside the hair textures.
And when all of these traits combine, like they do in most mestizos, the results are just endlessly unique. You get combinations you might not see anywhere else.
It's a visual testament to centuries of history happening right there on people's faces. It constantly challenges any single idea of what a Mexican looks like.
Yeah, and speaking of ancestry, we have to keep emphasizing the indigenous foundation. They really are the backbone of this diversity.
No question, over 7 million Mexicans still speak an indigenous language. In many of these communities, because they've remained more geographically and culturally distinct, you see those ancestral traits strongly preserved.
High cheekbones, darker skin, sometimes shorter stature.
Exactly, and the environmental adaptations are fascinating.
Like the Maya in Yucatan. Didn't researchers find traits like shorter legs, stronger torsos that were suited for tropical farming?
Precisely. Adaptations honed over generations for their specific environment and way of life.
Or the Tarahumara people in Chihuahua, the famous runners, their lean builds, powerful legs, allowing that incredible endurance running in the mountains.
It's extraordinary. These adaptations show how indigenous groups contributed not just culture, but distinct physical features shaped by their deep connection to the land. It's living history, written in their biology.
Which really brings us back to the central conflict, doesn't it? This idea that there's one way to look Mexican.
The stereotype, yes. Tan skin, dark eyes, black hair, medium height.
But everything we've discussed, all the data, the reality you see in the streets, it just blows that stereotype apart.
Completely. You can have Mexicans in the north who might pass for European and indigenous groups in the south with features closer to people in the Andes. It's incredibly broad.
And then the Afro-Mexicans who've often been rendered invisible in the national narrative.
And are now rightfully pushing for visibility and recognition, demanding their place in that national image.
Yeah, there's that tension. Global stereotypes might paint one picture, often based on laborers.
While within Mexico, media or even politics might feature predominantly lighter-skinned individuals, reinforcing certain biases.
It really forces that question about representation, doesn't it? And privilege and cultural pride within Mexico itself.
It's a huge ongoing conversation, a debate about national identity, about who defines it and what that means for everyone. It's happening everywhere, from family dinner tables to national media.
It really is a beautiful, if complex, picture, though. Like, you can imagine that classroom in Oaxaca. A kid with deep brown skin, almond eyes, sitting next to a girl with hazel eyes, freckles, maybe reddish-brown hair, both Mexican. Proudly.
Exactly. Same heritage, vastly different appearances, telling different ancestral stories.
Or a festival down in Veracruz. Afro-Mexican dancers, their energy, next to indigenous musicians, maybe mestizo families watching, displaying every feature imaginable.
That's Mexico, not one face. Thousands, millions, really. Overlapping stories.
So what's the future look like? Is it just going to get even more mixed?
Genetic research suggests exactly that. Intermarriage rates are high, migration continues. Think about the U.S.-Mexico border. It's such a dynamic zone. Millions of Mexican Americans, constant back and forth flow, bringing influences, blending genetics even further.
So demographers are saying, like, by 2050, trying to fit Mexicans into neat radial boxes will be basically impossible.
Increasingly difficult, yes. Diversity really becomes the norm, the default. Mexico is almost like a laboratory for human genetic blending in that sense.
Is there debate about that? Does everyone see it as positive?
Well, there are different perspectives. Some worry that this intense mixing could risk diluting or erasing distinct indigenous identities and cultures, which is a valid concern. Others argue that this blending is Mexico's strength. Its resilience comes from this very ability to adapt, absorb, and mix.
Yeah, there might even be biological benefits.
Some scientists propose that. Greater genetic diversity can sometimes lead to better population health, more adaptability in the long run. It's a potential strength, biologically and culturally. A testament to diversity itself.
So wrapping this up, what makes Mexicans look so different? It sounds like the answer is, well, everything.
In a way, yes. It's simple but profound. Mexico carries the genetic heritage of continents.
Indigenous roots going back millennia.
Spanish colonization.
The resilience and contributions of Africans.
Waves of European migrants later on.
And now modern globalization, constant movement.
It's all there, etched onto people's faces, creating this unique, evolving human mosaic.
So the takeaway is, next time you think about Mexico, don't picture just one look. Forget the stereotype. Instead, maybe imagine this incredibly rich, vibrant tapestry, woven from deserts, jungles, mountains, coasts.
A tapestry that vividly shows how beauty flourishes in difference.
And whose story is absolutely still being written, one unique face at a time. It really makes you look closer, doesn't it? And appreciate just how varied humanity can be.